Absolutely. And I think all of us, should take that position. It's easy to stand on the sideline and complain, not get involved. But all of us have a role that we could play. It doesn't matter how small or large it is, as long as you feel like you're making a contribution to humanity.
It takes something a little more to lead with impact. I'm Lisa Nichols, author of Something Extra, and this podcast was inspired by our daughter Allie, whose additional chromosome has shaped how I see people in leadership. Each episode features conversations with inspiring leaders from around the world about what truly defines how they lead and serve others. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider leaving a 5-star review. It helps more people discover the show. And if you'd like to go deeper, my book, Something Extra, is available on Amazon and through other major book retailers. I'm grateful to have Andrea Jackson-Jennings on the show today. Andrea is the managing director of the Regional Response Team. Well, Andrea Jackson-Jennings, welcome to the Something Extra podcast. I'm so delighted that we could make this work.
Thank you for having me. I deeply appreciate an opportunity to share my experiences.
Yes, well, and you're doing some really amazing work that our listeners might not know about. So I'm excited for them to learn from you and to learn more about what you're doing. You and I got connected fairly recently, I would say in the last 6 months. And when we talked, I said, oh my goodness, Andrea, you have to come on to the show. And so I'm just really grateful that you're making the time to do it. But you've had a really incredible journey, I would say, Andrea, in your career. I mean, I think you started as a cashier, right, at UMSL. We won't say how many years ago because, you haven't aged a bit, right? But you
Not at all.
not at all. Neither have I. Neither have I.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
know, but you were there at UMSL and then like leading regional crisis response. I mean, take us back to like the journey. And I would love for you to just talk a little bit about, I know you grew up in Normandy. I'd love
Yes.
for you to just talk too about kind of what were those things that were early shapers of you and maybe even some people that influenced you.
Yes. So again, Lisa, thank you for the opportunity. And I've had an extraordinary career path leading to where I am serving today. So it all started when I was a little girl. As you shared, I grew up in the Normandy area. I'm a product of the Normandy School District, which I am very, very proud of. I had an opportunity at a very young age to lead with guiding principles that include faith, family, and community. So everything that I've done over the last 25 plus years has been centered around those guiding principles. But with that, to your point, I have been working in higher education. A former public servant working for St. Louis County government as a director of human services. And now I am leading the regional response team. And each one of those positions has given me an opportunity to make sure that there's clear policy and all policy changes, as well as giving folks an opportunity to programs and services that would increase their quality of life. So my whole career trajectory has been centered around just making sure that the least of these have an opportunity to ensure that they meet their basic needs as well as having access to deserving programs and services.
That just well, first of all, I love so much of what you just said. I love the 3 guiding principles: faith, family, community. That makes it pretty, I mean, simple, but yet profound, I think. I love that. And it just reminds me, yesterday, Andrea, I was talking to a gentleman in Switzerland, and he had made the comment. He said the success, and he loves Switzerland. He's not originally from Switzerland, but he's been there most of his adult life. And he said the success of a society is really based on how the least of these is doing.
That's
And I
correct.
thought that was so good, So, I mean, just, and I know that's what you've done, is you're serving the people. And so, and vulnerable,
Yeah, the vulnerable or the voiceless.
the voice.
Often enough, we're in rooms and we're in positions of influence and power. And like all of us, or most of us, we want to make sure that we're using that power influence for the right purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have dedicated my life to doing that. And I don't operate out of those three principles that I just gave you: faith, family, and community. Community is critical. If we do not invest in our community, Lisa, what will we have to leave behind to our children and our grandchildren?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
what does that say about us?
Oh, so true. So true. Well, okay. So tell me, were there people in your life that were super influential? I don't know. You and I have not even talked about this. So I don't know if there was a grandmother or an auntie or who were the people in your life? Teachers?
I would always say that the foundation obviously were my parents. I come from a traditional family nucleus. And so they helped create what you see today. They wanted to ensure that my brother and I were good people, that we operated with a moral compass, that we operated with a lot of integrity. So I would say first and foremost are my parents. They were the first
Mhm.
examples of what I saw and what I wanted to be through the lens that I saw them on a daily basis. They were both very hardworking individuals. I would also say teachers. Teachers are always a great example of what we see. They teach us. We're like a sponge, right? And we learn so much from the folks that we spent 6 to 8 hours a day with. So teachers were always a huge influence for me. And then also, I have gravitated over the years to politics, and not, politics. When you hear folks say politics, folks can get a little scary. But
Mhm.
I'm interested in making sure that we leave this place a better place. So that was the reason why I entered into the public servant arena. And at the time, the first county executive, first person of color, the first Black man to lead, was Mr. Charlie Dooley. And he came to me and asked me to be the director of human services. And so for that, I'm eternally grateful, because they gave me an opportunity to have some influence over programs and services, do an evaluation and a summary or a survey on what the county's needs were as it related to social services. So that was an opportunity for me to really trust myself, get out in community and talk to people, and hear from them directly on what their needs were, and not as opposed to just showing up telling them what they needed, actually hearing from those that were greatly impacted, and then creating good policy around those discussions.
Mhm.
So I'm very excited about that, having that opportunity, and that just set the stage for me to transition into my current role as the managing director for the regional response team. And again, I came over here in 2021 during the height of the pandemic, recognizing that government, nonprofit, and the philanthropic community were working in silos.
Mm.
And there was a population of individuals that didn't have total access to what they needed and deserved to survive. And so, for that, again, I'm eternally grateful to be in a position to help those individuals. And we're still working in that space. We were intimately involved during the May 16th tornado last year.
Yes.
We we work in tandem with a lot of the larger organizations. We focus on the smaller grassroots organizations because a lot of times they don't have the capacity or the resources to actually be as impactful as they like, but they are also the boots on the ground. They're the ones that really have direct access to those individuals that were in need at that time. And so I'm happy to say that we were dispatched there within 24 hours. and we were helping build a database that helped those grassroots organizations, a triage to get those needed supplies and food and all of the things that were needed at that time into those impacted areas. And
Mm-hmm.
we're still working in that space today, helping with the school district, St. Louis Public, to identify a lot of those youth that were displaced, and then making sure that they have the wraparound services that they so need to continue to be successful.
I just remember when you and I first spoke, Andrea, I think I had told you, I said, I feel like you're kind of like the quarterback. You're kind of like that hub because
Mhm.
there's so many services out there, right? But sometimes the connection point is not real apparent. And I feel like that's where you are serving, kind of right in the center of all of that. So I love that role. I love what you're
Thank
doing.
you. I would say that is the added value of the work that we do.
Mm,
We are the intermediary. So you obviously have the larger organizations that have the resources and the capacity. But then we also need to make sure that those smaller grassroots organizations who really have the desire and the heart and are really best connected with those individuals that are close to the ground.
So good. So good. Well, let me just ask you this. Was there a moment in your mind, Andrea, because you started as a cashier at Umdell, was there a moment where you just knew that you were called to this work?
Well, I grew up in an area where there was a huge disinvestment. And so when I was working at the University of Missouri, where I started as a cashier, I had an opportunity because I lived in the area. I had an opportunity to see some of the box stores, the big chain stores that moved out. I had an opportunity to see the smaller restaurants move out. I had an opportunity to see a school district that was allowed to be provisional for 20 plus years. I had an opportunity to see a hospital that I used to pass every day close. And so for me, I was always taught that your community should have all the resources that you need.
Mm,
You should never have to go out of your community to
mm,
get the support that you need. So I was watching an area that I was raised in lose all of its resources.
yeah.
And so, and I wanted to also work close to where I live. And
Mhm.
so UMSO is the pillar of that community.
Yes.
All of my degrees were earned at the University of Missouri at St. Louis. My dissertation was also written on Normandy Osteopathic Hospital, a hospital that is now the School of Optometry. So I have a rich history of that area. I've always been invested in that area. And so I started out as a cashier just so that I could get my foot in the door, so that I could learn about the institution, the student body, the process and procedures, to see if this was something, A, if I wanted to continue my education there, and then B, to see how I could be a great ambassador for the university. And so that's where it all started for me.
Yeah, I just love that. Well, I'm just thinking to myself, okay, so you're watching all of this, right? You're watching the disintegration of a hospital, you're watching all of this, and we all do that, right? We sometimes notice what's going on around us, but what I love about you, Andrea, is that you didn't just notice, you decided to take action.
Yes.
Yeah, and roll up your sleeves and get in the fight. And so, I'm always the opinion you can't like stand on the sidelines and complain about things without saying, okay, what can I do to help the situation? Right. So,
Absolutely. And I think all of us, should take that position. It's easy to stand on the sideline and complain,
yes,
not get involved. But
that's
all
right.
of us have a role that we could play. It doesn't matter how small or large it is,
That's right.
as long as you feel like you're making a contribution to humanity.
Yes. Well, and I'm going to go back to what you said at the very beginning. You said you want to leave places better than you found them.
Mhm.
So that's precisely, and that's just a great way to live, I think. Well, let's talk about this. You have been a member of New Sunny Missionary Baptist Church for 40 years. That's amazing.
So New Sunny Mount Missionary Baptist Church is where I fellowship. I serve on the usher board. I'm a greeter as well as a trustee, and I absolutely love the fact that we're in the center. We're located right across from Calvary Cemetery on the corner of West Florissant and Shreve. And our pastor, each ministry is charged with giving back to community. And so on a monthly basis, all of the ministries are either making sandwiches for the homeless or they're knocking on doors trying to figure out what the basic support that they need and how the church can help in those efforts. So again, that's connected to community. And our church is right near the tornado impacted area. We're fortunate that we did not have any damage, but we have been supporting that area for quite some time. So
Hmm.
I love the fact that everything that we do is based on our community and how we can serve and lead. And again, make sure that the folks in that area have access to necessary resources.
Yeah. Well, you're doing what the church was called to do, Andrea, and that's to be the hands and feet of Jesus,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So
Amen.
we are
And we
called
don't.
to serve, and he served, right? So you're modeling him. So I just love that. Well, is your faith like? Let me ask you this: has your faith ever been tested in leadership? And if it has been, what did that look like?
Well, that's a great question, Lisa. One of the things that I often question is my leadership style. Given, we work in a multi generational work environment, and everybody's needs and expectations are different. And so, what I try to lead with is being a servant leader,
Hmm.
empowering those individuals to lead and giving them the autonomy, but also pairing that with accountability and expectations so that they also understand that with this work comes a lot of accountability,
Yes.
and all of us will be held accountable for our actions, but also giving them the tools to thrive and to feel empowered and supported throughout the process.
That's such a great point. You got to have both, don't you, right? Because empowerment without accountability could be chaos. Right?
And confusion. Yes.
And a lot of confusion. And maybe getting things done, but not getting the right things done. So
Yes.
I love that. You've got the empowerment plus the accountability. And I happen to feel the accountability because oftentimes people may seem like that's encroaching, but I feel like it's loving to have that accountability piece too. So, um,
And Lisa, I would add too, it has a lot to do with the approach because
oh, 100%.
yes, the approach is critical as well. And again, that has a lot to do with how you can support your team by making sure that they feel supported, and that we can come to a happy medium. Leaders don't always have the answers. And we have to acknowledge that at some point and lead with humility.
Amen to that. Amen to that. I always say, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're clearly in the wrong room. But
Yes.
it does. It takes humility. It takes vulnerability, I think, Andrea, to go, hey, listen, I don't really know what to do here. So I need
Yes.
to rely on you guys. I need to hear your voice. So that's so good. Such a great leadership lesson. Well, I've got lots more questions for you, but we need to take a really quick break, and we'll be right back with Andrea Jackson-Jennings on the Something Extra podcast.
Hey there. In a challenging business climate like this, savvy leaders look to technology to find an edge. This can mean the difference between staying ahead of the curve or playing catch up. It's time to collaborate with the highly skilled experts at Technology Partners. Our team of technologists draws upon decades of experience for your project, with each bringing a passion for solving problems and a track record of success. How can we help you overcome your biggest technology challenges? Visit technologypartners.net to book a free consultation with one of our leaders.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Something Extra podcast with Andrea Jackson-Jennings. We've been learning so much from Andrea this morning. I'm so excited to learn a little bit more here. I've got more questions for her. But Andrea, during COVID, you had a $13 million budget, and almost overnight, it went to $39 million. What did that season teach you about leadership?
That was a very trying time for all of us. One of the things that I recognized early is that when the government shut down and all of the employees were asked to work remotely, a lot of them, Lisa, didn't even have the tools to work remotely,
Right.
right? They didn't have computers, they did not have access to internet. And so here are government employees who are helping folks every day, needed help themselves. So we learned early from that we need to make sure that folks have the tools that they need to be successful, whether that's working in the office or outside of the office. In addition to that, there were a lot of federal dollars that were coming in to make sure that each sector needed had access to the resources.
Yeah.
And so that's the reason why my budget increased swiftly.
Mm-hmm.
Had all of these mandates that were coming in, and folks weren't able to leave their homes. So we had to make sure that they had access to food, that they had access to medical supplies, that those that were disabled had delivery companies that could drop off whatever their needed supplies were. So we were charged with a lot during that pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
And so again, it was a learning experience because we learned that there were a lot of folks that just were in need, and that we were thankful that we did receive the funding from the federal government to try to fill the gap
Mm-hmm.
for those individuals.
Yeah. I'm just thinking as you're talking, Andrea, there's a lot of emotional investment. I mean, it's physically, probably that was very physically taxing, but also emotionally when you're carrying so much. I mean, that's how, how did you balance that? I mean, like, because I would be internalizing all those stories, right? So,
Well, and you feel responsible. You feel
yeah,
responsible
yeah.
because you're the face of the organization. We had meetings in the morning at 7 o'clock, and we had meetings in the evening at 7 p.m. So at 7 o'clock a.m., we met, and then at 7 p.m., all of the leadership team for county met together and talked through what the challenges were, what did we need, what needed an immediate response, and then who's going to take the lead on all of those things. And so it was emotionally draining. But
Yes.
I have to say, I have a very supportive family. And then my faith, sustained me. So I put my personal feelings aside because I knew what was at risk for everyone else. And
Mhm.
that it was how I was able to balance it all.
Yeah, I love that you said that. Well, I know I read somewhere that you've been described as a crisis manager. And I would definitely say during that time there was crisis, right? It was definitely a crisis. Yeah, there's a lot of emotional weight. So like would you say, because I mean, I was going to ask you this question about like burnout, if you ever feel that, but probably, I think you just said like your faith is probably what sustains you during those
Yeah.
times when you just feel that exhaustion, right, Andrea?
And the other piece to that is we are learning this whole work life balance. And what does that really mean? Does that mean, taking off a day periodically to just take a break,
Hmm.
do some things that really make you feel good about you and the work that you're providing to community? So I find myself, Lisa, trying to find my happy, right? And this season, because it's spring, my happy is working in the yard. I have rose bushes that I need to trim, and so that's
Yes.
therapeutic for me, right?
Yes. Yes.
Planting my flowers and making sure that I'm connecting with Mother Nature. So that's how I find my happy, and it's a distressor for me. Um, a lot of people find ways of taking care of themselves from an emotional and mental standpoint. But what I'm doing for this season is working in my yard and just trying to meditate on life and how thankful and grateful I am.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good. Gratitude, making those gratitude lists are very important. Our family, Andrea, several years ago, just a little practice that we do every night, we do a gratitude circle, and the
Yes.
whole family is around, and we go, sometimes we include my 86-year-old mother-in-law in it, and she loves it. We FaceTime with her, and she loves it when we include her. But
Yes.
either we're going from youngest to oldest or oldest to youngest, and everybody goes around and really is very thoughtful, intentional about what they're grateful for, because when you list all those things, it's hard to be disgruntled when you
I
focus on
agree.
the good things.
And I think as a human being, we're human. So
Yes,
quite naturally, we're going to have brief moments where we can
absolutely.
get frustrated. But for the most part, I don't stay there
Yeah,
because I have so much to be thankful and grateful for.
yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Yeah, and the other thing that I've had to learn too, because I kind of grew up in a kind of a performance, productivity, type environment, and that's something I've had to learn, that rest is sacred too. Rest really, is the only way you can restore. So I love that you said, maybe just get out in the yard and not necessarily work harder, but just find that thing that brings you joy and happiness. Because then how are you going to show up for other people?
And that's it. If
Right.
if you haven't taken care of yourself, self-care, right? If
Yes.
you haven't done that, then how do you provide the support that others need and rely on a daily basis?
Yeah. So good. So good. Well, let's talk about this a little bit, because what you're doing now, there's a lot of collaboration, nonprofits, government, philanthropy. I mean, you guys are not doing, again, I kind of look at you as the glue. I kind of look at you as the hub, of everything. But, how have you seen, or how have you guys made that work? Because sometimes you see organizations that, um, how do I want to describe, very territorial, and it's hard for them to collaborate. I mean, are there things that you have done and brought to bear that really makes that collaboration easier?
I think, from a collaborative standpoint, trust is important. One of the things that I really focus on is creating trust and relationships. Sometimes in this work, it can be very transactional.
Mm, good point.
It can be very, very transactional. Folks are multitasking. They're just trying to check the box and get all these things done. But if we take the time to establish relationships that create trust, then that makes the collaboration more meaningful and lasting,
Hmm.
is what I've experienced.
Yeah. So tell me the secret sauce to building a relationship that is relational instead of transactional.
Well, I think what we have to start off is just meeting to get to know
Yeah.
each other and not just meeting to take care of business. Can we meet to have a cup of coffee? A lot of times I meet quarterly with folks just to say, hey, just to do a check in.
Yes.
How are you? Is there anything going on? Is there any support that we can give you? Often enough, folks think you want to meet with them just so that you can get something from their organization or looking for a check to be written, and it's not often about that. It's about just setting some time to get to know you, your organization, your work, to see how we align and to see how we could be partners, and not short-term partners but long-term partners.
That is so good. That's so good, Andrea, and that goes across, you know,
Sectors, regions.
every sector.
Yes.
Right. Yes, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah. I
because
love
need has no boundaries, Lisa.
Yes.
Need has no boundaries.
That's so good. That is so good. Um, yeah, we kind of talked about this. You said that you want to be a voice for the voiceless. I read that somewhere.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, what does that responsibility really feel like? Andrea?
It feels, it can be heavy
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of time the folks that are in need, Lisa, aren't in the rooms making the decisions. And I would say that you have to get out in community and talk to the folks that are impacted. I remember some years ago in North County where we were wanting to open up a youth center. The demographics were changing. The community it was getting to be an older community, and a lot of folks were moving out. And so we decided to just talk to the community to find out what the issues were. It was the generation, the younger generation against the older generation. The older
Yeah.
generation felt like, all the things, right?
Yes.
And so the answer was for us to create a youth center so that the youth could come hang out. We had instructors there to help them with their homework. We had snacks there, so in case they needed, if they were a little hungry, to hold them over until their parents got home from work. We also, if we had some youth that had some challenge with education, we had instructors there to help them
Mm-hmm.
with obtaining their GED at the time it was called. So we felt that this is what that community needed at the time. We didn't just walk in and say, "This is what we're going to do."
Right.
Deal with
Right.
it.
Right.
We
Listen.
surveyed those
You
individuals.
listened. Mm-hmm.
Yes, we listen, and that's critical, Lisa.
It is. It is. That is so awesome. Is that youth center still in operation today?
It is. It's in Spanish Lake. It's called Youth on the Rise. Yeah.
Love that. I love that so much.
Yes.
Yeah. So you are now serving on the bi-state board. We talked about that. You were appointed by Governor Parson, I
I
think in
was.
2024.
I was.
There's 10 people that serve on that board, five from Missouri, five from Illinois. Tell me about that board. What does the board do? Because our listeners may not understand that. It's part of the bi-state development, the transit, right? But
It is. The board, we meet regularly with the president and the executive leadership team at iState. We talk about what the needs are of that particular organization and how the board can be instrumental in supporting that. A lot of times it's fiduciary responsibility, it's talking through some of the challenges that the institution or the organization is having,
mhm.
and we're a thought partner with them in those areas. It's been a very rewarding appointment. I have a lot of respect for that organization. They have a tough job. They're trying to make sure that they have a functioning transit system, that the team have the resources that they need in order to get folks to their places of employment on a daily basis. So yeah, it's been quite rewarding. I've learned a lot, and I respect those folks over at Bi State.
Oh, well, that is so awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're there. I'm glad you're there, Andrea.
I'm glad to
Um,
be
um, what's your term? Is it a 4-year term or a 2-year
there. Yeah,
term? What is
it
your term?
is.
Yeah.
It is. It
Okay.
is. And so, um, yeah, I hope to continue to serve.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I'm glad that you're there. Well, speaking about learning a lot, you are a lifelong learner. You're a lifelong learner. I mean, you've got a bachelor's degree in general studies, master's degree in education, and a doctor of education, right? And all
Yes.
from
Yes.
UMSL. You talked about that before. What was
Yes.
that like getting your doctorate?
It was during the pandemic too. Well, we finished up being face to face, but for almost 4 years, that was a very stressful time, working full time, and as well as taking 9 hours, which is a lot at the graduate level.
Mhm.
That particular cohort, it was very interesting to learn from other individuals, but it was a very stressful time trying to manage the county Department of Human Services while also being in a doctoral program. My dissertation was on disinvestment in neighborhoods and in particular the healthcare system
Mhm.
and just all of the challenges that the current system has today that they're faced with, and the folks that are impacted the most.
Mm.
So it was very rewarding when I was able to cross that stage and get my hood And what was even more so rewarding is that I was the commencement speaker last year.
I know, that was kind of a full circle moment for you, right?
It was one of the most rewarding experiences that I have had. Just being there to speak to the students and give them a boost of confidence and let them know that anything is possible if you put your hard work, your time and your heart into it, as many folks do. We never know about the challenges that students are faced with today. And so,
Mhm.
not taking that lightly, to know that they persevered and are able to walk across the stage, it was awesome.
Definitely a highlight for you. I was going to ask you not to regurgitate your keynote,
Yes.
but I was going to ask you what were some of the main things that you told the students. I mean, you said, put your hard work in, it's possible. Is there anything else, Andrea, that you tried to deposit in them in that keynote that would be maybe helpful to some of our listeners?
Well, one of the things too that I wanted, even though I know that that day is focusing on the graduates, I
Mhm.
also wanted to thank the folks that helped get them there, because often enough there's a story behind that. And so
Mhm.
I took a moment to reflect and give those individuals an opportunity to be acknowledged too, because not everybody is, it's not always been an easy road for everyone.
Right.
But I also told them that anything is possible. As I've shared with you, anything is possible, but you do have to put in the time, the hard work, and be willing to face the obstacles that will be before you. It's not always going to be easy. This life, no one ever promised us that life would be easy. But if you put in the time, the work, and the heart, the grit that's required today, then you will have a successful path, not without bumps,
There will
but
be bumps.
there will be
If we
bumps.
just put it out there, there will be bumps, there will be obstacles.
Yes,
So prepare mentally for that now.
that's right.
What will
Absolutely.
you do when that obstacle, when that bump comes, and prepare for that. So,
And we're passing you the baton. We
yes,
we have great expectations of you, right?
yes, yes.
So try to make the very best of that.
Yeah, that's so good. That is so good. Well, let me ask you this. Now, I know formally you've got, you've definitely formally got the education, but are there other ways, Andrea, that you keep yourself learning and energized? And do you read? Do you listen to books? Do you go to do you go to webinars or conferences?
I have a full life. You know,
Mhm.
I'm involved in a sorority. I am a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. I'm also a member of the Links Incorporated, and both of those women organizations are based on community. So a lot of my time, Lisa, I'm still volunteering. I'm mentoring. I do a lot of reading. I do a lot of just reflecting and meditating. I want to be at peace with all the decisions that I make on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So I stay very active. My family sometimes, when I'm at home, they're like, "Oh my God, you're home tonight,"
Yep, I can
because
relate.
there's so much to do. I mean,
Yes,
there's too many things to do, for me actually, and
yes.
so I have to sometimes just say, you know what, I'm going to go home and hang out with my family tonight.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
yes, I do read. I do get a chance to get a good movie night in
Yeah,
sometimes.
have you watched anything recently that really, spoke to you?
You know, I did watch the doc on Michelle Obama. That was great.
Was that good? Okay.
Yeah, it
Good,
was it was really, really good to just
good.
hear her perspective on raising her children,
Mhm.
in the White House, and how she wanted them to remain normal children as best they could be
Right.
given the set of circumstances, and just how hard she worked to accomplish the things that she did. Yeah, so I think that was probably the last that I
Thing that
saw,
you
just
watched.
outside of
Yeah.
watching the normal stuff.
Sure, 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 sure. Well, very good. Well, okay, so this is called Something Extra. And the question that I ask every leader is, what do you believe is something extra every leader needs? But Andrea, before I ask that question, what do you believe God has given you? Do you have something extras? What do you believe is unique to Andrea?
Oh my gosh, Lisa, that's a great question. I think the spirit of giving
Mm,
and just the spirit of patience and resiliency, um, and just the compassion and empathy that is needed today. I operate with a lot of compassion, a lot of empathy. I really try to make sure that I'm looking at things from as many lenses as possible so that I am not biased. I'm
mhm,
trying to really make sure that we're giving it our best shot and that we're giving everyone the opportunity to have access to all the deserving programs and services that they need. So I think compassion, empathy,
mhm.
just and grace. You know,
Oh, that's a
I
good
think
one.
yeah, grace is important too.
Grace is important. It's a important thing for us to be able to offer grace to other people and also ourselves.
Yes.
Sometimes we're not graceful enough with ourselves. Well, are those the things that you would say that every leader needs, or is there something different that you would say to that question, Andrea?
One of the things that I really examine, right, is like for me is what is that something extra, and I would say humility, but I would also pair that with curiosity
Mhm.
because with humility um, should also come with curiosity because with the two together, you can create your team to be more engaged, feel supported, that they're part of a process, that you're not making decisions for them.
Yes.
You're giving them a platform to bring their ideas and their expertise to a given matter.
That's so good.
Yeah, so I would pair humility with curiosity, and the team can foster trust and support for each other, and then we'll end up with a better product at the end. Is how I see it.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so humility plus curiosity. And when I think about curiosity, Andrea, I think my mind immediately goes to asking questions, right?
Yeah, because that's how you find out. That's how you get to the root of things, and then also it helps folks with ownership,
Mhm.
and they can subscribe to it and buy into it, right?
So
Which is
good.
what we want.
Yes, for sure. That is exactly right. Well, Andrea, this has been so good. Thank you so much for making the time. I have loved every moment here with you, and I just think we could just keep talking and talking and talking.
Well, Lisa, I want to say thank you for offering this platform. I deeply appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and your listeners, and I hope that they found this fulfilling.
Yeah. Well, have a wonderful rest of the day, my friend.
Something Extra with Lisa Nichols is a Technology Partners production. Copyright Technology Partners, Inc. 2019. To learn more about this week's guest, check out the show notes at tpi.co/podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, consider leaving us a review. Thank you for listening to Something Extra.